Muted.
Wagner in Madison, Wisconsin, where Illinois somehow escaped with a 27-10 loss to a bad Wisconsin team. Wisconsin wins just its second Big Ten game of the season. Illinois in all three phases were stinky, Joey. Poo-poo stinky, as you like to say. Offense wasn't able to run the ball, not able to protect Luke Altmaier. Defense allows Wisconsin's offense to go 80 yards on the first drive, break off an 84-yard touchdown by Darian Dupree late in the game, and then not able to really stop them late in the game to put out some fires there. And then the special teams, bad again. They've been bad in losses so far this season, but 2 punt miscues lead to points for Wisconsin. Just a really disappointing loss, and one that really could reshape the season for Illinois that felt pretty positive coming into this after back-to-back wins. This is one of the more disappointing losses of the Bret Bielema era, in my opinion. And one, I knew the defense from Wisconsin would be good, Joey, and I thought they would give Illinois some issues. I did not think the special teams and defense would let them down this much, though everyone out there was going to say it's an Aaron Henry defense. Why wouldn't they let you down? And we will talk about that here in a little bit. But, Joe, I'm sitting here thinking like that's one of the most disappointing losses we've seen at least in the last 4 years from Bret Bielema.
Yeah, it'd be up there with Northwestern in 23. You miss a bowl game, and the way that it happened. I think that's really what you've got to look at too, right, is the way that this went down. Like, it was mistake after mistake. It was an inability to play anything that resembled complementary football. Like, after that first drive from Wisconsin, the defense did settle in. The Illinois defense did settle in a little bit. The offense couldn't get it going, and then obviously field position, the defense allowed an enormous amount of rushing yards. We'll get into all of that in a minute, but it kind of reminded me of that 23 Northwestern game where it's like you're in your way so much. Like, that is not – Wisconsin is playing better. It's not that great of a team. Like, you really helped them look so much better than what they are, and they dominated Illinois. They punked Illinois in every capacity tonight. And it'd be up there with that. I think the 2 games in 2022, Purdue, Michigan State at home with a chance to win the West would be up there. But this is as bad to me as the Indiana loss earlier this year. The margin is not there. Like, that Indiana margin was so bad. But relative to expectations going in, relative to where the opponents were, and since where Indiana has gone, this is wholly disappointing for Illinois. And you're right, it could reshape how you look at that Northwestern game, what that means for a bowl game. I mean, this is late in the year. You got to find a way to bounce back from this, and there's not a great deal of time.
Yeah, I think this feels worse than Indiana because you've figured out what Indiana has become. I think we understood in that Indiana loss, probably not a college football playoff team, right? I think that's what we thought. Right now, this isn't a ReliaQuest team. I can tell you that much. You're falling down in the Big Ten bowl order, and I just don't know if you're a team that beats Northwestern next week right now. Because, Joey, I didn't like the plan. I didn't like the scheme on both sides of the ball tonight. I didn't like the life from this team. We talked about it like Illinois should come in, and I wrote it in our game thread. If they play their C+, B- game, I think they escape Wisconsin with a win. I still feel that. This was their F game. Like, this was a D- game for Illinois. Wisconsin, with the way they'd been playing defensively, you knew that if Illinois played that poorly, they would lose, just like Washington lost. 2 ranked wins in the last 3 games for Wisconsin. So Illinois just felt like they could come in here and show up and get a win. That's not what happens in the Big Ten. And hopefully they correct that going into next week to kind of salvage and get an 8-win season. But this was a total failure. I think coaching staff, player execution, all of it, man. And it really stains what was starting to be, getting back on track to be a really, really good season. Now, I think the lowest thing that made this a successful year was 8 wins. And now they go into Northwestern needing a win, Joey, not to make the college football playoff, not to get to 9 wins, to get to 8 wins and have a winning Big Ten season. That's a disappointment for this team.
Yeah, it's absolutely a disappointment relative to what you thought this team was going to be coming into the year. Like, it wasn't just people from the outside talking about college football playoff. They wholly embraced where that could go with what they had coming back, both on the players and the coaches. And that's just not turned out. Like, I don't know who on the defense you can say has been better at this point. I think that there's been so much inconsistency in the run game. There's times where the last 2 games have run really well. Now they're not running well. Like, there's just been so much up and down with that, up and down and protecting Luke Altmaier. So, yeah, It is. I mean, it's disappointing, especially if you land at that 7 number when you could have gotten to 8, and that's just not what we thought this would be, and what really, frankly, what they thought this was going to be coming into the year. And that now you have to reconcile with that. And so there's only one game. Like, you got to find a way to fix this before Northwestern and turn that page as quickly as possible to try to get that 8th and try to salvage what I think would be Nashville for a bowl game, or Las Vegas, but that cushy Florida bowl game that had been such a nice break in late December, that feels like it's not happening at this point.
Yeah, I think Iowa should feel pretty good about going to the ReliaQuest Bowl right now. And I think Illinois is battling Nebraska right now for probably one of the bowl games. So we'll see where that all heads. They still got to win a game next week. And I'm concerned about it. After they're a disappointed team going up against Northwestern team that's really motivated after making a bowl game, beating Minnesota, taking Michigan to the final play. Northwestern's going to come in here fired up, man, to win that hat back. And I just wonder, where's Illinois' mindset going to be after this season has not gone the way they had planned? But let's talk about it, Joey. Should we start with Bret Bielema, us hearing from him? I think that's important to hear from Bret Bielema. Joey asked him about the defense, which allowed 27 points to a Wisconsin team that was averaging 6.7 points.
Hold on, can I give the stats, just the pure Wisconsin stats before we play this real quick? Yes. I think that would help frame this. Wisconsin entered the game season averaging 12 points per game, 246 yards of offense, 136 passing yards, 110 rushing yards. Tonight, Wisconsin scored 27 points with 301 yards of offense, only 92 passing yards, 209 rushing yards. Like, that's what they do. They run the football. They can't throw it, right? So you saw that at the end of the half, they bring in Hunter Simmons to try to throw them into field goal range. Otherwise, it's a quarterback run, see if you can get a couple passes out in the flat, and you just let them go far beyond their averages. And obviously, Darion Dupree's 84-yard touchdown really skews that. But Wisconsin punked Illinois in the trenches, and it shows up on the defensive numbers.
Yeah, 209 to 50 rushing yards tonight. Illinois got 5 sacks tonight, but so did Wisconsin. And Luke Altmaier, Illinois wasn't able to run the ball to put him in, advantageous positions to keep him ahead of the sticks. And the average third down distance today for Illinois was 9.4 yards, and they just got after them. And Illinois' offensive line was bad today. And I thought the protection plan, to be honest with you, was bad today. I mean, the defense was put in some bad positions because of the punt miscues and some of the issues the offensive special teams had. But to give up 300 yards to this offense is inexcusable. So Joey asked Bret Bielema about the defense and how he feels about the staff. And then I followed up with a question about just the big picture of this season. So let's hear from Bret Bielema first.
Is right now in terms of consistency, production, and the ability to stop teams.
Yeah. Well, without a doubt, we got one game that we got to concentrate on. We got a Northwestern team coming in town. Obviously, they had a big win today against Minnesota. So, I think, they became bowl eligible today too. So they're obviously in the postseason play, but this is a trophy game. This is a game that means a lot to our guys, and I'm sure it means a lot to them. So we'll get their best shot. But, there's going to be obviously out of season and off season corrections and adjustments. But for us to get Northwestern, it's going to be that defense staff, the same one that put together good game plans the last couple of weeks, got to do their best effort to get ready for Northwestern.
Right, obviously, you came into the season with high expectations for this team. So, where's this loss kind of sit with you after?
Well, expectations are awesome because they're created by what we've done, right? And the good news is, obviously 7 wins is not where we want to be. So that part is the reality of the moment, but also how we've lost, right? Like, this game in particular, to lose to a 4-win team, obviously they played better than we did and executed better than that. So that part's frustrating. And then the earlier losses, I think we kind of addressed those during the bye weeks. But bottom line, I'm not making any type of excuses or thoughts. We just got to play better football, and we got to, in my opinion, I got to do a better job of building a roster around them so that we can have successful players and successful plays that gives us wins overall.
Okay, Joey. So there's a lot to react to, and I think it kind of sums up where this thing is at right now. I think coming after this game, Bret Bielema's got a lot of work to do in the offseason. A lot of work. And it starts with his staff. It starts with his defensive coordinator. I think he's got to make a change there because I just don't know if the players are being put in the right positions, and I just don't know if they have an identity, and I don't know if he's good enough to lead this team. I say I don't know. I don't think that's right. I don't think Aaron Henry is the right guy to lead this defense moving forward after seeing it for 3 years. I don't think they have an identity. I don't think they play well. I don't think they're put in position to succeed. Number two, they got to get more talent, man. Got to get more talent on this team. I think they were overconfident in what they had on this roster, depth-wise and playmaker-wise. I think they got to get more talent up and down at certain positions. So they got a big budget going to the offseason. They need to use it and use it well.
Yeah, to point to your point about Aaron Henry, I asked Miles Scott, why has consistency been so hard to find for this defense? I really can't answer that, to be honest, Miles Scott said. I don't know if that was – I do think we have to be careful and not expecting players and coaches to have every schematic answer 4 seconds after the game ends. But I did kind of hear that and think, okay, that's interesting, right? And you're right. Bret Bielema has really got to decide what he wants to do at the defensive coordinator spot with Aaron Henry. And when we say that, we'll get into the offensive struggles tonight, right? Those were very prevalent, very real for Illinois. But big picture, you got to look at how this defense has performed the last 3 years under Aaron Henry, what you want to do moving forward. And then his point, got to get more talent. This is the way I feel like at some positions they evaluated what they had in talent reminded me of 2023 in the secondary, where they thought they had more than what they did. And maybe you could look at the secondary again this year and point to that. The difference is you have a third-year quarterback who can mask some of those issues, where in 2023 you had a first-year quarterback with Illinois, and it was harder to mask some of those things. And you could say if you want to go on to different positions, I would understand kind of looking at it like that. But I think Luke Altmaier has masked some talent issues at various position groups on this team. And when the offense struggles like it did tonight, and the Wisconsin defense we knew was very good, it's a lot harder to mask some of those issues at various spots.
Luke Altmaier's masked a lot of issues the last 2 years, I think. And tonight he wasn't able to lead them out of it. I didn't think Luke had a great first quarter. I thought he played pretty well after that. Got to go back and watch the film and some of those sacks. But the offensive line just got manhandled at times. And to be honest with you, I thought Barry Lunny in the protection plan put the tight ends and running backs on some of those pass rushers like Reiger and Peterson too much. So I thought the protection plan wasn't great either. And they just weren't able to run the ball, man. And I can't for the life of me understand why Caden Fagan isn't getting more touches. I just don't know why he's running the ball the best right now. I know he's had his ups and downs this season with, is he running hard enough? Is he showing the best vision? I think he's the guy right now that gives you the most. But you also just didn't have any counters to getting some of those easy little gains, like a check down to a running back in the flat when they do bring that pressure, Joey, or a screen pass. You just didn't see those things tonight. But it all started out your offensive line in your front got its butt kicked on the defensive front, or on the offensive front. But yeah, defensive coordinator, man, we've had 3 years of it, and it's not good enough. I think we can all see the eye test. It's certainly not good enough. Washington was a disaster. Tonight, 80-yard scoring drive for Wisconsin on the first drive, 16 plays, 9 minutes, Joey. First quarter was over before we even knew it. And then 84-yard
longs again. You've got to get off of the field on 3rd and longs, and they are not. You cannot let – I'm sorry to cut you off with that. They had a 3rd and 11. They ran a bunch formation to the field side, Wisconsin did. Illinois had 2 guys over there. It was a big play. That's what you do, right? But there was not – it felt like they were a guy short over there. Why? How is that happening? I don't understand. Miles Scott was back at the sticks. So they had 2 guys up, then Miles Scott back at the sticks. There's 3rd and longs. You can't allow this Wisconsin offense to go down and drive the ball like they did on that first drive and expect to think you're going to do anything other than get run over by them.
Yeah, man. Getting run over by them on that first drive, man, show up with some pride defense. They were just getting – there wasn't anything big surprising. There's some misdirection, but you know what's coming. And just getting kind of manhandled up front in some of those. And then the 84-yard touchdown run by Darian Dupree. That's when I first thought Illinois was going to lose this game. You can't give up that kind of chunk play to that team. Illinois really stacked the box. Aaron ran a blitz, I think, on the right side or on the left side. They run to the right, and Matt Krusevich just did not take a great angle. Didn't have help up in front of him, but Matt Krasudic's angle and tackle was really, really poor, and he's had that before. So just a disaster for those two series for the defense. But the special teams, man, like these punts, it was a terrible punt by Keelan Crimmins to set him up on a short field at the end of the half, gives Wisconsin some momentum going into halftime after it felt like Illinois had stuck some of those away. That's a 17-10 game. You got to get a punt off. Terrible snap by Lane Hansen. Keelan Crimmins gets crushed. Wisconsin gets the ball. 4 plays later, Joey, they're up 24-10, and that's pretty much ball game. So
Yeah.
a failure in every regard.
I really thought after that, Miles Scott said that it kind of felt like the life got sucked out of them on that Darian Dupree touchdown run. But even after that, you come out of that, you get a stop. I mean, I want to go back. I looked at this and I wrote down some. I mean, write down everything during the game. You come out of that, you get a stop, you go 3-and-out offensively. Wisconsin, you hold them to a punt. You got lucky, but they got called for that holding and face mask that really ended up forcing a punt. Illinois goes down, stalls out inside the red zone, settle for a David Alano field goal. Felt like they needed a touchdown on that drive for momentum to cool down the Wisconsin crowd. The student section was on one tonight. They really showed up. They stormed the field. Afterwards, you give up that, then you still hold Wisconsin to a punt after that. You get a break on the repunt, and then the offense just couldn't do anything. That's when that bad snap came, and then they went Wildcat to score a touchdown. For as rough as the defense was, and we've given a lot of criticism to that defense all season, especially tonight, the offense was wholly underwhelming. I understand.
I thought this was Barry Loney's worst game of the season. I thought it was basically the offense's worst game of the season, Joe.
I understand that this Wisconsin defense is good, and we knew this was a good defense coming into that. It just felt like, to your point, there weren't a lot of counters. Where do you just get the ball out quick? Because you're getting beat up at the line of scrimmage, and I never saw those counters. They were looking downfield. Daryl Peterson had 3 sacks. There were times with Tanner Arkin. I saw someone mention Caden Fagan. It wasn't Caden Fagan one-on-one. They put Tanner Arkin one-on-one. Caden Fagan was supposed to be the help if that defender, which they did, got past Tanner Arkin. Fagan was a step up, tried to recover. There were times that he had done enough to get in the way. I thought Luke Altmaier's ability to evade pressure probably kept Illinois in this thing longer than they deserved to be in this thing. He stepped up, he spun, he did a lot of things to avoid pressure, but this was Duke levels of pressure. This was first half Duke levels of pressure on Luke Altmaier, and it just never felt like they could get an answer to try to give their quarterback enough time to throw the ball downfield, or then to answer just to get a quick hit or to just get it out of his hands.
Yeah, and there were some moments, man, like it felt like it could have been worse, Joey, because there were a couple of times Illinois was pretty close to turnovers, right? Like that first quarter interception was overturned on review. Had a couple batted balls at the line of scrimmage that didn't happen. But it's just, there were some huge penalties too, right? The Cole Rusk offensive pass interference led to a David Alano missed field goal. You could have 4th and 1, and maybe you get that and get a touchdown on that drive, and you take the lead or tie it up, and then the next drive take a lead. And then J.C. Davis with a hold on that huge 3rd down catch by Hudson Clement that got you across midfield, takes points off the board. So yeah, the offense is certainly I thought this was the worst game. That's what I want to say. It's a total failure. We bring up Aaron Henry because of the failure of the season on this defense, but I thought the offense was terrible. And I knew it would be harder against a really good Wisconsin defensive front, but I just didn't think they were put in position to succeed. And then they just made these big penalties, and that really cost them, and just didn't execute. Justin Boak's got to get his head around at the goal line and find a way to get open there, because he was open in the end zone. You don't score a touchdown and then have to settle for a field goal. That was a huge win for Wisconsin at that moment.
Yeah, 2 points. One, we started with the defense because it allowed an inept Wisconsin offense that entered this game in a total disarray to score 27 points. So that's why we led with them. The offense, someone said they counted 2 screen passes. There's probably a few more than that, but Wisconsin batted them down every single time. There were, I guess we do have to go back and maybe alter what we said it a little bit. There were a few counters baked in. They did have some screens baked in to try to get it out of Luke Altmaier's hands. Wisconsin just batted 2 or 3 of them down at the line of scrimmage. So I guess that's a correction on our end, that there were some things that they tried to do. But my issue beyond the pressure on Luke Altmaier, which was real and just entirely more than we've seen in a good deal of time against Illinois, the issue I really felt you touched on it. Caden Bacon had 5 touches. He touched the ball 5 times tonight. He ran it 3 times and caught it twice. I'm not trying to make him out to be Derrick Henry. We know there's been ups and downs with Caden Fagan this season. He is running the ball better than any other running back in that room right now. And they didn't – it wasn't like this game was out of hand. You weren't playing that much of a catch-up during the game, or the really the meat of this game, where you could have given him the ball, tried to slow things down a little bit. Just didn't see that happen. I would have liked to see – I'm with you. I would have liked to see more Caden Fagan.
Is there anything else you want to talk about with this game specifically? Because Gabe Akis, kudos to him. I thought he was disruptive most of the night. Gets 2 sacks. He's 1 away from being the 5th player in Illinois history to have 10-plus sacks in a season. So he was 1 player I thought stepped up. I thought Matthew Bailey made some plays, 10 tackles and a forced fumble in this one. There's another thing, Joey. A thing that changed. Illinois forced 3 fumbles. 3 fumbles, did not get any of them back. I do not know how Kurt Neal and James Thompson did not make that play. That was a game wrecker play by Gabe Akis to get that sack, force the fumble, and they didn't recover. They punt, and it was a hell of a punting day for Wisconsin's punter, by the way. Illinois gets the ball back, but gets it at the 25 of Illinois, and then has to punt it from their own 44 after only getting 1 first down. You get that fumble, you're scoring 3 points most likely, Joey. That felt like a huge change. Then they had another forced fumble later in the game, not able to get on the ball. Was it Dupree? When you're down 2 scores and you have a chance to get back into the game, not able to get on it. So it's just, those have been there all year. Some of those takeaways, whether it's a tip ball or forced fumble, and Illinois is just not able to make the most of it for whatever reason. Yeah,
there was also the play that I thought James Kreutz had an opportunity to get his hands on a potential interception, and it just kind of zipped right by him. I think that was in the first half. The fumble thing kind of felt a little bit like last week's interceptions where the ball just floated. It felt like the ball just sat on the turf, and it either bounced into Wisconsin or Illinois just couldn't come up with it. But that play, that forced fumble by James Thompson who forced it, or Gabe who forced it, that felt like a moment. Right? That felt like if you didn't get that, you're right. You get 3 automatic points. I need to go back and see exactly when that was in the game. But it
was the first drive of the third quarter for Wisconsin. Gabe Akis, 3rd down, 3 and out. You forced a 3 and out, which was great.
That's right. Yep.
But you would have had the ball inside the 20-yard line.
You would have had it at the 27-yard line. Yeah, at that point. Tough, man. Like that did feel very much like kind of that moment to circle, and it ended up being that.
And then you punted on your next drive, and then Darian Dupree. After an incompletion, nice forced negative play on that first down, and then Dupree runs for that 84-yard touchdown. Just like, oh, this game could be one of those games, and it ended up being that. So just ugly. Anything else you want to hit on this game specifically, Joey, before we get into the big picture questions here?
No, we got some good super chat questions to get to soon, and one guy is elected to not give anyone Thanksgiving turkey, so that's where we are.
Understand it. $49.99 super chat by Crimson O-Line. I appreciate you, Crimson. You have unlimited budget to make changes this offseason. What changes do you make to maximize this program's potential? Change the defense coordinator. I go get a Jim Knowles or a Jim Leonard type, a guy who's proven, a guy who brings identity, a guy who's aggressive. I like aggressive. I just like that kind of style of defense. I don't like sitting back, and these players just don't look like they're in the right spots, and they've been coached to be in the right spots. So they're not executing your style that you want to do. Go get a great quarterback, Joey, in the portal, because you've seen how valuable a quarterback is the last 2 years to lead you to 17 wins. Imagine if they did not have a Luke Altmaier. Imagine if they had a Drake Lindsay right now, right? Or a Mark Gronowski right now. Like just a middling to subpar Big Ten quarterback. How many wins would they have the last 2 years? So you got to go get a game changer there, and then rebuild the offensive and defensive lines, obviously. I think that's going to be a huge one. So you can take it from there, Joey.
Yeah, I would get help in the secondary. I think you need to add some more guys in the secondary. The offensive line is one. You and I have kind of disagreed off air a little bit about this from time to time, but I do think if you can find the right running back, I understand the layers to that pitch when you're bringing back 3 guys, as far as we know, to what running back out of the portal is signing up to walk into that running back room. But I just think the health situations have put you to a spot where you might have to consider adding one. I don't know that it's going to be the easiest thing to do with how that roster is constructed at this point.
Listen, I think Caden Fagan's a really good number 2 back. I think he could be Josh McCray-like. I think he can be better than that because he's a little bit more explosive. Cole Valentine has not played great the last couple of weeks, and I just if you can find a Justice Haynes or somebody like that, Joey, that you can plug in as like there's a no doubt number 1 running back. Sure, I would do something like that, but I think it's got to be someone like that because I don't know otherwise. And you're going to lose somebody if you did that, but I just think it'd have to be somebody of that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it, you got to take a swing, right? I mean, you got to, if you're going to disrupt things to that level, you got to take a swing. I think edge rusher, like we've seen in the games that Illinois has lost, I do feel like outside of Washington, which the defense was the biggest problem, disruptive edge rushers can change a game. Like we've seen Gabe Akis. We just talked about nearly the opportunity to do that tonight. You got to replace that dude. It's not good. Yeah. Like, that's not easy. It's not easy to replace that dude. So I think those are things like quarterback. We've talked a lot about what do they do at quarterback moving forward. I get it. I think it's a fair question. You've seen how much Luke Altmaier can mask. I just think like at that position, you spare no expense. You go get the guy who can come in and keep pushing this thing and keep masking things if you need to mask things. Ideally, you have fewer things to mask, right? But if you need to mask some things, like that is the guy. Like that is a position where it doesn't matter what it ends up costing you, you got to do it.
Yeah, and I always do a checklist of things Bret Bielema has to do going into next season. I feel like I'm writing that a week early this week after we finish up with this pod, because that is the point here. Like they get an 8th win. Like that's really important, I think, for your program to get that hat back and to kind of at least get the taste out and get an 8th win. Check off some of these things, but it's still going to be a bad taste in the mouth of what you thought this season could be. I don't think it's a failure of a season, but I do think it comes with some disappointment if you can get that 8th win. If you get 7, man, that feels dirty. That feels dirty for this team, given what Luke Altmaier has been for this program. Joe, you got to retool, rebuild most of this roster. Like this is one of the most important off seasons of Bret Bielema's tenure. Replacing Ryan Walters was a huge moment for his program. Bringing in Barry Lunny after year 1 was a huge moment for his program. Bringing in Luke Altmaier was a huge moment for his program. This one, you got a lot of change, and we'll see what happens with the coordinators. But this is going to be a huge pivot point for the offseason. So that's why he's got a lot of work to do, man, because you're losing Gabe Akis and potentially Matthew Bailey and potentially Xavier Scott. And, obviously Luke Altmaier and Hank Beatty and most of your offensive line. There's so much work to do. And it just shows that this group wasn't even that good enough. So now that you lose those players we just talked about, next year could be really rough if you don't hit in a lot of these areas.
Yeah, it can. I will say, it's just to take a breath here, because I agree with you. I do get the sense that they're going to be aggressive in rebuilding this roster this offseason. So, like,
I see there's people in our chat, man. I know there's people in our chat saying the budget's not as big. It's not what we hear, man. That's not like Illinois' got some resources this offseason.
That's Fedigator, who is perpetually concerned. And listen, at this game, I understand their concerns, but I just need to remind, they know what they have to replace. And I do believe that they're going to be aggressive in replacing where they can, right? I mean, and going in and being in the portal, I don't think this is going to be picking on the fringes of the portal to try to develop your way through this. I think they understand the need ahead of them, and I think they're ready and they're armed to go do that. And whatever way that looks like, I don't know exactly, at this position or that position. I don't know how that shakes out, but I do think they're armed to go do what they need to do.
And I said it before, I think they got to figure out what they want to be offensive line wise, whether that's Barry figuring it out, protection plans, or Bart Miller. What do you do at offensive line coach? I think all that thing's got to be figured out, because it just feels like it's been inconsistent for the last 3 years, and they just got to figure that out. So that's the other area Bret Bielema's really, really got to fix. Good to go to the next super chats here, Joey. Keep the thing going.
So. Yeah, too long, didn't read. Upgrade talent everywhere. That's what you get. That is what the answer is. And staff and player.
Fedigator, $4.99 super chat. Illinois has a talent problem, a coaching problem, a developmental problem, and a money problem. Lose next week, and he finished behind Northwestern. I don't think the money problem, Fedigator, is that big of an issue going into this offseason. Talent, we just talked about. Coaching, we've talked about. Development, I just think they've overrated some of their guys, Joey. I think that's a self-scout. Development is great. It's fine. It's good to find some under-recruited guys, and they turn into something. They can't always be your star players. Like, there's a reason 4 stars and 5 stars still matter in recruiting.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that. And I am curious, and on the other end of this, like, what some of these guys, like some of these longer term developments look like after 3 years in the incubator, right? And get that. But the problem is they've had to play some of those guys earlier. And then you've seen where these gaps line up. You can look at the defensive line. Like last year they had to play young defensive linemen probably earlier than they needed to play them. What would that have looked like 3 years later? I don't know. Like, we can't revision this history of that. But I do.
This year they had to play Tanner Hackle way earlier than they wanted to.
But they have overestimated talent. Like, we've seen that. I do think we've seen that mostly in the secondary. Like, that is where I think we've seen some of that, whether that's playing too early or just thinking they have more than what they ultimately end up having. That's a position to me that sticks out more than any. And I think I'm probably skewed with that a little bit with 2022 or 2023 rather. And then you lose Xavier, and it's like doesn't really feel like there's an answer here right now.
Yeah, I think they thought Matt Grossetich would be a starting caliber player. He has not been that for them. Caleb Patterson has not been, I don't think, a starting caliber Big Ten cornerback for them this year. So yeah, like, you go in thinking those guys are going to be big impacts, and it hasn't been the case. And just to roll out Tanner Hackle and think that we're fine there as the backup star. I understand you thought Xavier Scott would be your guy there, but you got to have a guy that's ready to be a starter caliber player, and they just didn't have it. So I know all these teams suffer injuries, but certain areas, I think the defensive line depth, I think they were right there. I think they've had some players who have really stepped up and turned into quality Big Ten rotational players. Wide receiver has been pretty good this year. Separation has been an issue the last couple of weeks as teams have figured out how to contain Hank Beatty a little bit, but certainly in that secondary. SRQ, $5 super chat. Thank you, SRQ. How do you hold on to recruits after this? I hate this team.
Relationships.
I don't know. I don't know if recruits go that overboard after one loss, like they're going to change their entire opinion. Now, like, you don't want to do 2 in a row and get them thinking about, before this, but most of these guys have been locked in. I don't know if a guy's going to change his opinion of where he wants to go, where he's been to campus all these times. Some guys probably see, hey, I can play next year, right? Like Nick Hankins, I'm sitting there going, I can play next year. Jacob Eberhardt, I can play next year. Like, some of these guys, Nasir Rankin, I think can make an immediate impact right away. I don't want to say nobody would change their mind after a disappointing loss, but I don't think these guys are going, they didn't win 10 games, get to the college football playoff. I'm not going there anymore.
No, big picture, you look at where a program is going, and I think some of that plays in, but there's a lot of relationships established. There's a lot of things in place. Signing days in 2-3 weeks. Is that right, Jeremy? You've been churning out signing day spotlights. Yeah, you know that. So you're also pretty late in this game here to totally pivot. So I think that's probably a little bit of an overstatement, to be honest. But you do have to. You're right. I think there are positions where you see there's playing time sitting right in front of me.
All right, $19.99 super chat from Kurgs. Thanks, Kurgs. I bet on Wisconsin and won a few bucks. Run game has been a bust. That is what I was most excited about heading into the year. Can't run, can't play D. Without Luke, we are under 500. Dude, I totally missed Joey. Like that, I kept saying I'm so high on this running game, what they're going to do with an offensive line coming back, all the running backs coming back. I like the mix of talent you had there. Got pushed around too much there. Like the last 2 weeks were great. Rutgers, Maryland. But too often against good defenses, they're not able to run the ball. USC was a really good running game. It's been way too inconsistent. I think it has to do with Tanner Arkin's been phenomenal run blocking, by the way. I thought he had a phenomenal first half today and was great last week. But you just have not gotten enough push up front. I do think you need to get bigger on the interior, but just not consistent enough. And I don't think the running back's vision, I don't think Khalil Valentine's vision's been great the last couple of weeks. He obviously needs to get stronger. And I just don't know why Caden Fagan hasn't had more touches.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like I really bought into what we saw the last two games. I thought the combination of Luke Altmaier's legs, which was really effective early tonight, the combination with that in terms of and combined with I thought Caden Fagan was running the ball much better. That's why the 5 touches are fairly perplexing to me. I probably jumped in on that a little too much in these last 2 games, but on the whole, it's not been the most dynamic running game. They have not been able to establish over the course of a full game. There's been second halves where you're yes, that is what I expected from Illinois.
USC, they ran the ball down their throats the entire game.
There's been inconsistency start to finish the season in the run game. When they've looked good, it's very much what you thought it was going to be. And then when they've looked bad, it's whoa, I did not see this coming.
Average third down distance of 9.4 yards. It's just not putting your quarterback or your offensive line in a great position, and especially against that team because they do have a good front. Steven, never have I been more discouraged about the direction of the football under Bret Bielema than tonight. I certainly understand discouragement and disappointment tonight. I think of the Kansas loss in 2023. I think of that 2-4 start to 2023. That was more discouraging to me, but this is discouraging because of the expectations of this team, Joey. I think 23, you're just hoping get back to a bowl game, 7-8 wins would be awesome. This year, you're thinking, can you get to 10? I didn't know, but I thought 9 or 8, especially coming down the stretch of this schedule after the last 2 weeks. I thought Illinois would take care of business tonight, man. I thought they were better coached. That wasn't the case tonight. I thought they had more talent, and that didn't show out tonight. So that's why it's really discouraging to me. I think you're way better than that team. I do. I think you're better than Wisconsin. And, man, you just gave Madison a party when it looked like it was a morgue before the game here in Madison. This is the least excited I've seen a Wisconsin fan base about this team. And then they got to celebrate on the field with a field rush for the second time in 3 games. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's big picture stuff. So, I understand where Steven – it's big picture stuff of discouragement. I think Bret Bielema kind of nailed it in the clip that you played of him earlier. It's the way that it's happened. I think that is where a lot of that frustration, and I get it, would settle in is you got pushed around by Wisconsin tonight. In year 5, you got pushed around on the offensive line. Your defensive line couldn't stop the run when you absolutely knew Wisconsin's hope was to ball control, was to run it. Their quarterback runs it. He doesn't throw it downfield for anything. And you got pushed around. You couldn't stop that. So, it's not only just a big picture. It's the eye test. It's been very much in these losses wow, it feels like there is a gap here. And I don't think there's truly a gap, obviously, between Wisconsin and Illinois. Washington is not as good as Illinois made Washington look. That's a good team, but you've seen over the course of the season that's not played out to be the world beater they looked like in Seattle that day. So it's just the way that these have gone that it just feels like, what is happening here? Why can't you get out of this rut?
Remember when Illinois got in a lot of one-score games? That has not happened much at all this year. It's USC, and you should.
That was a huge story, right? That was a huge story of Bret Bielema's tenure is one-score games, and that. Yeah, you're right. That's not.
Now all these losses are 3+ possessions this year, and one of them to a 3-17, now 4-17. SRQ, another $10 super chat. Thank you, SRQ. Right now I'm angry. That's a good thing because it means I still care. I'm dangerously close to reaching apathy. I'm tired of hearing be thankful for reaching a bowl game 2 years in a row. I don't think I ever said be thankful for reaching a bowl game. I said be thankful that you're in a pretty good era, and the fact that you're reaching apathy in a 7-win season, it's a change. But I get disappointment. I'm not saying accept, this is what you need to always be happy with. But this is way better than what Illinois has done with. But this is a huge setback, Joey. This is a setback, and this is why I said it's the most disappointing loss, one of them for me, of the top 2 or 3 of the Bret Bielema era, because I think you're just better than that team. You just got your ass kicked. And it just felt like you didn't want it as much and weren't prepared and weren't schemed and didn't execute. So that's why. I'm not saying just be happy with this. I'm just saying look at what the history has been. I don't think you should be apathetic after a 7-win season. I think you should be discouraged after tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, I love this chat so much. I'm with you. I think the other thing that I think of is it felt like there's been moments for Illinois to really like Indiana has proven that was going to be a really hard moment to take. Right. But like even in Seattle, like there's been moments where you're kind of putting forth in this rebuild and you're really pushing forward in this rebuild. And then you have these moments where it's like, okay, you can win four in a row down the stretch and set yourself up for a potential another 10-win season. And then you have a game like tonight where it's like, why can't this ball just keep rolling forward? And I think that is the thing that, like, you know, go back to 2022. Why can't that ball roll forward more against Purdue, against Michigan State to get to Indianapolis? 2023, why can't it roll forward more just to get to a bowl game against Northwestern? Like, there's just been moments where you feel like, okay, they can capitalize on this right now. Like, we know it's obviously a better era of football. There's no question about that. But there's just been these games where you're like, man, this could be like, this could really just keep pushing this thing and pushing this thing and pushing this thing. And then you get flattened by Wisconsin. And that is, I think, where some of this is like one of these times, and I'm not saying they haven't had big wins. They've clearly had big wins, but even go back to Penn State last year. Right, you're in Happy Valley. It's like, all right, this could be one of those games, and the snap goes high, and you can't really get anything going. So, like, it's such a good era of Illinois football, but it just feels like they've been that close sometimes to just pushing it a little bit further, and they've not been able to do that.
Yeah, I feel like they maximized last year, right? Like 10 wins was like a maximum, like part of the spectrum for that team. This 22. That team was probably more talented than an 8-win team, especially at the top of the roster, right? So to not get to the Big Ten West Championship, to not get to 9 wins, to go 1-4 in your last 5 games, it was a breakthrough season, Joey, but there's a tinge of disappointment because I don't know if you maximized your opportunity. This year, you didn't maximize your opportunity either. So you can still get to 8 wins, still have a pretty good season, still say, hey, you know, we're a top half Big Ten team, but you miss an opportunity to potentially put yourself in that 10-win college football playoff run, 9 wins, you know, do something and be a top 6 program in the Big Ten this year. So you're right. Just like they just haven't quite maximized, even in some of those years that historically for Illinois, an 8-win year or an 8-win year like this year could be is pretty good. It still feels like you left some meat on the bone.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I think we can say that without like selling short with this turnaround has been. The turnaround has happened. It's been a real thing, and the program's in a better spot. It's just, I think that's maybe where some of the frustration is. It just feels like winning in Madison against a 3-win Wisconsin team doesn't feel like it. That average 6 points a game in Big Ten play like that. That's where you should be right now, right? You should be able to do that. And then when it doesn't happen in the way it doesn't happen, then you start to get some of this manifested.
Like Iowa doesn't lose this game, right?
Iowa doesn't lose much. Find a way.
They find a way. They find a way to win their ugliest games, like they did today. Like Iowa just finds a way to do that. Crimson, another 1999 super chat. Thank you both. Great coverage as always. Feels like this program has been prone to overconfidence in recent years. 23-25. Do you think there's anything to that? I don't know if 23 ever looked like an overconfident. Maybe overconfident in that you didn't do anything in your secondary.
I think overconfidence in what you had. I don't think they rolled in there thinking
should have hit the transfer portal harder. Yeah. 25. I felt like the players were overconfident today. I thought I just didn't think they showed up with the attitude you needed to win this game. Maybe I'm reading that wrong, but it's just they performed like it. And yeah, I think the staff probably a little bit overconfident again in the secondary. Were they overconfident on the offensive line or any areas offensively, Joey? It was a bad game today, but it's been a pretty good year for the offense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know they were overconfident anywhere offensively. If you really want to, I mean, the only position that, I mean, right guard, but I don't know.
Protection's been disappointing because it's inconsistent. And in the running game's been disappointing.
But like you go out, like their confidence was rooted in bringing back J.C. Davis, an all Big Ten left tackle. He's been good. He had a bad game today. J.C. Davis has been good. I think Melvin Priestley has been good. Like, it was not a good game for the offensive line today. But like, I think it's the secondary where you would think that you've seen some of that overconfidence boil there. And I can't think of another spot in particular.
Yeah. Did you see the bootlicker comment? I want to find that.
Bert Signal made his way in, man. Happy to
He
have.
did?
Hey, yeah, just for the record, we did ask about the defense, Bert.
All those bootlickers, are they going to ask some tough questions? We've asked tough questions about the offensive line. We've asked tough questions about the defensive staff and what he wants moving forward. We'll continue to do that. I'm sorry you don't like the answers. I'm sorry you want us to yell at him. That does not get you answers. We do not go into that press conference yelling at Bret or showing your anger. He's obviously disappointed. We go into a press conference trying to get answers out of these coaches. Joey asked about the defensive staff. I asked just about what disappointed him most from this game, what this means for the season and moving forward, and thought he gave really insightful answers, Joey, that we played a little bit earlier, that give us a little thought about what he's thinking, because right now that sounds like a guy that's going to make some changes to his defensive staff, and sounds like a guy who knows he's got to get a lot more talent. That tells me a lot.
Yeah, I thought the answers we got were informative. Were they Bret Bielema pounding the table, yelling? No. Was it some sort of hints back and forth with reporters? No. We asked questions. I thought we got answers that were informative. I mean, if that's not, it's not my job to scold Bret Bielema. Why is your defense not consistent? Why are you struggling to get stopped? How do you evaluate your stats? That's, I thought, pretty pointed. Why is this defense not consistent? I thought pretty pointed. Like, just because they don't scream and yell, I mean, it doesn't – the words have substance. I thought Bret Bielema answered both of those questions very well and gave us things that help us understand, at least in some part, as much as you can understand where he's at or what he's thinking.
All right, Bojangles, $9.99 super chat. Matt Bayless quote about how their preparation could have been better was wild. Not preparing properly at this stage of the season raises questions for both coaching and players. Yeah, Joey, you said it. You asked, Miles Scott. What was your question, Miles Scott?
I said, why do you think this defense is struggling to find consistency? I don't know the answer to that. Or what do you say? I want to make sure. I can't really answer the question, to be honest.
Yeah. Just not a lot of confidence, I would feel, on that side of the football. I think they tried to build some of the last couple of games, and they played well. Darren Henry, and then their credit. But, yeah, just not working. Not working.
Well, and I asked Matt Bailey, I said, is it more of a physical – when you talk about this lack of execution, that was what he said. Is it more physical or mental? He said basically everything starts with the mental. I didn't feel like this game was – and it clearly wasn't the game plan wash. I didn't – there was that first drive, like, was Illinois hitting them? Like, I felt like there was a little bit more aggression in this defense early on. And even though that first drive they drove down and scored, and you can't have that in the way that they did that drive. But it did feel like they were playing aggressively. They were playing fast. And, at some point, that just kind of tapered off over the course of the game.
All right. You got any final thoughts, Joey, before we write columns, get about an hour of sleep, head back home to watch the Bears and Packers?
I got nothing. I'm just laughing at the guy who just robbed everyone of Thanksgiving turkey for a loss in Madison. That's an all-timer. That's just not even mad. It's just a good laugh. It's a good laugh at midnight. I had a good beer. It's a good laugh.
Yeah, you did get a beer. Is that bar still open downstairs?
I'm gonna look on if it is, I'll bring you up one.
Or text me. We can go down and get a beer at the bar because I need a beer after watching that game because it was ugly. We will have plenty from this game at Illini Inquirer when we wake up in the morning with all our thoughts. Go check that out. If you're not a VIP member, please sign up. That really helps us out. We appreciate all the super chats tonight despite the loss. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate you. Helps us talk things out, helps us write as well. So appreciate all you guys. Give us a follow, rating, review, wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, before you get out of here, hit that like button, subscribe to us. That really, really helps us out. All right, for Joey Wagner, I'm Jeremy Werner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.